On today's American Football Stories episode, we'll recap Week 7 of the NFL. American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint is a great tool that allows us to add graphics to player highlight clips, similar to the graphics you see on TV. Coach Paint offers the ability to clearly illustrate video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game with Coach Paint.
What time is it? Game time! It's gonna be special. They're gonna talk about this forever.
Welcome to American Football Stories.
Puts his head down, crashes and spins, and dives. Touchdown!
Bringing together the many perspectives that make up college football in the NFL.
Football is one of the greatest sports ever invented.
From players and coaches.
Believe, baby, believe, baby.
Hey, we playing to win right here, fellas.
To the front office and scouts.
The public is finally beginning to catch up, but they don't even know half the truth.
Us against the world, let's get it.
Your hosts, Robert Parker and Nick Knudsen, bring you American Football Stories.
Welcome to the American Football Stories podcast, brought to you by Coach Paint. Today is October 25th, 2020. I'm Nick Knudsen, joined by my co-host, Robert Parker III. What's going on, Rob?
How's it going, Nick?
Good, man. We just enjoyed the ending of that crazy Seahawks-Cardinals game. Quite a game. We'll get to it. We'll cover it at the end. We'll start off by mentioning the bye weeks this week. Vikings, Dolphins, Colts, and Ravens. I don't believe there was one COVID-affected game, but they just swapped times with Vegas and Tampa, correct? That they just moved that Vegas-Tampa game. It was supposed to be the Sunday night game. They kicked the Seattle-Arizona game back. So no cancellations for the NFL this week, luckily. Solid week after the craziness of the last couple of weeks, all right? So we'll start on Thursday night. The Giants go into Philly. They battle. And I think the highlight of the game is Daniel Jones breaking away on what appears to be a clear 90-yard touchdown run, only to get sniped and to trip and fall before the end zone. Giants end up scoring on that drive anyway, but I can't tell you how many times I saw that clip on Twitter over the weekend. The Giants end up holding the Eagles to under 100 yards rushing, but a running back by the name of Boston Scott comes through with the final touchdown catch with 40 seconds left, and the Eagles end up winning 22-21. Rob, we've talked about it for weeks now. NFC East, you're never dead. All right. The Eagles, I told the fans, I don't think the team's very good, but you're in the NFC East. You got a chance. And the upcoming schedule, it gets a little friendlier. They had a tough stretch to open the season. This was game one of that friendly stretch. You got the Cowboys, Giants the next 2 weeks. Let's get back to 500, Philly.
Yeah, I think one of the plays that everyone kind of notices on that Giants game was the Daniel Jones getting tripped up by the turf monster. But, I mean, the Giants has battled tough all year long. And I tell you what, one play that I thought that should have went the Giants' way that didn't go the Giants' way was the little, toss to Evan Ingram where he had it. He should have caught it, but he dropped it. If he catches that, the Giants get to run out the clock and they win that game. But that was just a missed opportunity by the Giants, which caused the Eagles to get an opportunity, and they took advantage of it. Great throw by Carson Wentz to Boston Scott on that wheel route to kind of win the game. So you tip your hats off to Philly for getting the win. But just like you said, no matter who it is, whether it's the Cowboys, the Washington football team, or the Eagles or the Giants, it kind of seems like everyone is still in the playoff race to win the division.
Yeah, it's really crazy this year. And looking at the Eagles' schedule, I mean, first off, I think we saw who the Cowboys are. Their defense wasn't good when they had Dak Prescott, and the offense isn't much without him. The Giants and the Cowboys are not going to make a lot of noise this year, so this division is looking like it's probably going to come down between Washington and Philly. And if you're the Eagles, I mean, I'm looking at their schedule, Rob. I'm counting maybe, 2, 3, 4, maybe only 4 more wins that I'm certain of. You'd have to pull a few upsets to get more than 6 wins here. So we're looking at a situation where the division winner, maybe 6 is the magic number in the NFC East this year.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like, Nick. I tell you, it is an abysmal division. It seems like both of these teams, whether it's Washington or whether it's Philly, it's just like they're having problems on both sides of the ball. But Carson Wentz, right now, he's the best quarterback that's still, healthy in that division. So let's see if he can go out and he can win that division.
Yeah, I mean, Washington doesn't have it much easier. And the one thing Washington does hold over Philadelphia is a head-to-head win. So those two teams will play in Week 17. And that's something to circle on the calendar if you're an Eagles fan. All right, let's jump into Sunday here. Detroit goes to Atlanta, and the poor Falcons, Rob. They just keep finding new ways to break people's hearts. But on the upside, just when I thought they were going to win themselves out of the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes, they jump right back in. And we saw a Penn State, Indiana situation. You actually referenced it on the college episode. But Todd Gurley, he's played this correctly multiple times throughout his career, but he accidentally scores a touchdown late that allows Detroit to give up to get back in it and go 75 yards in the final minute of the game to steal a win in Atlanta. So what would you think about Todd Gurley accidentally scoring on that? He really, you almost saw, he tried to pull himself back from the end zone before he scored.
Yeah, he really did. And just like you said, it was kind of reminiscent of that Penn State Indiana game that we talked about in our college segment. But just like you said, Todd Gurley has done this multiple times. But just another terrible loss for the Atlanta Falcons. Like, that's one game that you pretty much, you wasn't dominating the whole game like the couple of previous games that you kind of gave away. But you did kind of, you had the advantage on that. You was moving the ball, especially on the offense side of the ball. Your defense was holding up against Matthew Stafford in Detroit. But to kind of give that one away, that's pretty much the Falcons season. And once again, just like you said, Nick, they played their way back into the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes.
And with the wild card expanding to 7 teams this year, I think you have to start. This Lions team is 3-3. They already blew a game against Chicago. They could have. They were up against the Saints. All the games they've won or lost this year, they were up in at some point. So if you can beat the teams you're supposed to beat, you're looking good, Detroit. You got a big game against the Colts here next week, and I think if you can take care of business there, you got a stretch that includes Minnesota and Washington before a big game with the Panthers, but then you play the Texans. So I think that the Colts can have the Lions can have a successful month here. And if they play a good month of football, I think that they're going to be in that top 7 in the NFC because you're only getting one team out of the East this year. And then you got the Vikings and Falcons already playing themselves out of it, but the Lions can hang around. We'll see what they do. So this was a very important win for Detroit, even though we're watching Atlanta almost comically come up with another way to lose at this point. Rob, another team that I love for the playoffs this year, maybe not a division win, but critical victory for the Cleveland Browns. I think if you look at it, they go down to Cincinnati, and we know Burrow's game. We like Burrow's game. He's always going to compete. And you see that from the guy week in, week out. He's carrying this Bengals team, 406 yards passing. Like, you're going to get a tough game every time you play the game. Every time you play the guy. 297 yards from Baker Mayfield for 5 touchdowns after people were a little frustrated with him. Clean game here overall. I'm going to read you, though, the second half drive charts, okay? Starting the second half, this game is 17-10 at halftime, Cincinnati. Starting the second half. And by the way, let's take it out. Let's take it to the first half, all right? So after the first few drives of some back and forth here, Cincinnati they both open with interceptions, punt, a fumble. Cleveland gets a field goal in the first quarter, end of the first quarter. Here's the drive chart the rest of the way from the end of the first quarter. Cleveland field goal, Cincy field goal, Cleveland touchdown, Cincy touchdown. End of the half, they scored right at the end of the half, so Cleveland got the ball for one play, didn't score. Let's go to the second half. Cleveland touchdown, Cincy field goal, Cleveland touchdown, Cincy touchdown, Cleveland touchdown, Cincy touchdown, Cleveland touchdown. Right at the end of the game, the Bengals had one play. So not a lot of defense today, Rob.
Yeah, not a lot of defense. And once again, I hopped on this Browns bandwagon. I know you kind of hyped them up earlier in the year, and you said you're not certain that they're going to win the division, but you are certain they're going to make the playoffs.
They definitely will not win the division.
but you do project them to make the playoffs. And
Yes.
once again, this is the Baker Mayfield that we need to see week in and week out. 5 touchdowns. He kind of spread the ball around. They did lose Odell Beckham with a leg injury, so
Mhm.
we're going to keep an eye on that moving forward. But once again, you have Rashard Higgins, and you had the rookie Donovan Peoples-Jones who made the game-winning touchdown catch. Hell of a catch for Donovan Peoples-Jones coming out of Michigan. So I think Baker is getting more confident week in and week out. And, Harrison Bryant and David Njoku stepped in for Austin Hooper, who was out. So this team has weapons no matter, who's in the lineup and who's not in the lineup, and they still can get it done. But I think you mentioned Joe Burrow. You're going to get a tough competitive game with Joe Burrow. I just love to see that Joe Burrow and T. Higgins connection moving forward.
Yeah, good stuff in Cincinnati developing, something to work off of going forward into the future. Do you think that Burrow and Baker, how do you see this rivalry going down the road? I think these two are going to bring out the best in each other. I think we got a great rivalry setting up for the next few years.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. And, hopefully, Cincinnati can put some more weapons around Burrow to kind of even the playing field. But, Joe Burrow, he's living up to the billing as the number 1 draft pick. And he's actually, he's dealing right now. He's in his mode. And, Joe Mixon is there in the backfield, but he definitely needs a little bit more help. AJ Green and his injury concerns. You have T. Higgins, the rookie. You have Tyler Boyd there. But, you got to put some more pieces around him, and hopefully Cincinnati will do that moving forward.
Yeah, you got a little bit to go if you're the Bengals. A little bit of rebuilding here to do, especially up front along that offensive line. So Cleveland, next 4 games here, you got the Raiders at home, the Texans at home, the Eagles at home, and then you go on the road to the Jaguars. I think you're getting through November with at least 3 wins there if you're Cleveland, and that would put you at least 8 wins heading into December. But this Raiders game, I want to talk about that for next week. The Raiders are one of these teams that they come to play each and every week. Lost a tough one today. They'd fall to 3-3. Had some COVID issues earlier in the week with some offensive linemen. Might be some discipline behind that from what I'm hearing. But this Raiders team is going to be in the playoff wildcard hunt. And I know the Browns got 2 games on them, but I think it's going to be important for Cleveland to get a head-to-head win next week. If they get a head-to-head win against the Raiders next week, you can almost go ahead and lock in that Cleveland Browns playoff spot, Rob.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Once again, this Raiders team it's been formidable for the most part. Tough loss today to Tampa, but just like you said, if they can get that head-to-head win, you can kind of book them to have a playoff spot.
Right, especially the way things are starting to play out in the AFC East and the AFC South. So there's not a ton of competition. Raiders are looking like your best competition for that spot. So big head-to-head with the Raiders and Browns next week. That's going to be a game we're going to be watching. All right, biggest head-to-head this week was Pittsburgh and Tennessee. Hey, this Titans and Steelers was a delayed game from a few weeks ago. I think we got the benefit of the doubt from it being delayed. I mean, this game really lived up to its billing. This is 2 5-0 teams coming into it. Pittsburgh escapes with a 27-24 win. Big Ben, 3 interceptions. Pittsburgh opened up with an early 14-0 and 24-7 lead at half. But this Titans team, they're tough. They battled back. A.J. Brown had himself a day. Big-time touchdown reception, put up 153 yards receiving. And did you catch it? I think it was Clowney when he went like full-on like Madden defender on Chase Claypool in the backfield. Did you happen to catch that hit?
Yeah, he definitely went Madden hit stick on that one.
Yeah.
But once again, that's just indicative of the year that Chase Claypool has been having so far. It just seems like, he's on every team's radar. They're not going to let him beat him. They're actually going to key in on him. And once again, he fits perfect in this Pittsburgh Steelers offense. But Deontay Johnson is one of the receivers that had a day for Pittsburgh. But just like you said, this game definitely lived up to the billing. I know Pittsburgh jumped out early and, Tennessee had to come back to kind of make it competitive. But, I mean, they had a chance to kind of take it in overtime, but with the missed field goal, that was pretty tough.
Let us declare a new law on the American Football Stories podcast. You live by the Gostkowski, you'll die by the Gostkowski. He's had an interesting season, a lot of ups and downs with the guy. So don't want to be in a situation where you're relying on him late in the game. But on the other hand, he can come through and help you too. So interesting situation with the kicking deal in Tennessee. Almost cost them some other games too. Great win here for Pittsburgh. To me, after what we saw today, it's clear there's starting to be some separation. Today was kind of a separation Sunday. I think we could easily peg these two teams. We've talked about maybe putting Buffalo into this. We've been skeptical about Buffalo putting them in this upper echelon. I think it's clear that Pittsburgh and Tennessee are clearly a notch above the rest of the AFC, right behind Kansas City. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I know we talked about putting, Buffalo in that, top tier, but, with the game that they had against the Jets, we're going to get there. I just can't put them in that class. But once again, we definitely seen some separation this week in regards to teams, especially the teams that's going to make the playoffs and teams that's going to make deep runs in the playoffs.
And Baltimore might be in that second tier as well, and we'll get to see a look at the Ravens playing the Steelers next week at 1:00. Looking forward to it. Ravens Steelers. That's going to be for ultimately the division lead because Baltimore comes into the game 5-1. But here we go, just another year of Ravens and Steelers and the 5-2 Browns. We'll talk about them for the playoffs all day, but they ain't on that level. So Pittsburgh, Tennessee, Baltimore, they're going to be dogfight for that number 2 seed. I think the Titans, they proved their worth today. Keep on fighting. You got the benefit of playing in the AFC South where you're going to get some friendly scheduling matchups down the stretch. So Tennessee's absolutely in that hunt for that number 2 spot. All right, Carolina at New Orleans. We've been a Pro Panthers podcast for the last few weeks here. We know Carolina's scrappy. They're always going to battle. But Breeze was on today. And the Saints, they held a tenuous lead throughout the game. The Panthers even tied the game at 24 in the second half. The Saints ended up hitting a winning field goal halfway through the fourth quarter. But the Panthers did take a shot late. Teddy Bridgewater, unfortunately, took a bad sack, forced Carolina into a 65-yard field goal attempt. It was closer than you expect, though. Joey Sly, pretty much lining up on midfield, on that Saints midfield logo, and it was just short. You can never overlook this Carolina team. Marquez Callaway and Alvin Kamara lead the Saints with 8 receptions. But we're clearly missing Mike Thomas. What's going on with Mike Thomas, Rob?
Honestly, Nick, I don't know what's going on with Mike Thomas. You hear reports coming out of New Orleans that
a lot of rumors.
He's getting in it with teammates. He's getting in it with Sean Payton. He kind of got rolled up on in the first game of the season. He kind of missed games during this injury due to the ankle injury. Then it said he kind of had a hamstring injury. So it seems like he's dealing with a lot of injuries, but it seems like he's also dealing with some off the field stuff too. Just like you said, the rumors are out there. And so I don't know what's going on down there. But once again, Drew Brees was on, and, it's this next man up mentality in the Sean Payton's offense. So I think moving forward, whether you're going to have Michael Thomas or not, I think, the Saints offense is going to continue to roll as long as Alvin Kamara is back there in the backfield.
It's clear that they're missing a little extra pop right now. Might have to do. Drew Brees has been not playing his best so far this season, although he had a nice game today. But you'd really like to see Thomas get back, some continuity develop before the playoffs, because the Saints team, no doubt they're a playoff team, but what type of run there? I mean, I think everyone's in agreement that at their top level, they absolutely are capable of getting to and winning a Super Bowl. So Mike Thomas is a part of that plan if they're going to get there. Nice day for DJ Moore on the other side, getting into the end zone a couple times. But speaking of missing playmakers, what's up with Christian McCaffrey? When are we getting him back in Carolina?
Hopefully they can get him back in a couple more games. But once again, you mentioned DJ Moore with the big game. Curtis Samuel actually came in and did pretty well. So I tell you what, this Carolina Panthers team is definitely gritty. Teddy Bridgewater is taking that step to be a great quarterback, not just a game manager. It just seems like him and Robbie Anderson is on the same page. And when you can get kind of DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, get their targets, and then you can get a running game. I think this Carolina Panthers team can make some noise moving forward. I don't put too much stock in them making the playoffs, but
Yeah.
they might upset a couple of teams. I tell you that.
They could definitely play spoiler down the stretch, especially within that division with New Orleans and Tampa. They got some games left still, but against both those teams. But we write them off for the playoffs. I'm only doing that because of today. If they would have won today, they would have moved to 4-3, and they would have been in a nice position to talk about a wild card. But I think you definitely got to at least finish second in the South if you're going to get a wild card this year, because NFC West, everybody in the NFC West has a winning record right now. So little tough to talk about 3-4 Carolina in the playoffs, even though I did mention 3-3 Detroit. I just think Detroit has a couple scheduling things going their way that can work out for Detroit. Not as optimistic with Carolina, but hey, here I am underestimating Carolina again. They just keep proving me wrong. So let's move on to one team I didn't think I underestimated was the New York Jets, but they're giving Buffalo all they can handle today. Jets showed some fight, Rob. You know, it's these type of performance that keep me from buying fully into Buffalo as a contender in the AFC. They like the Bills, they have all the tools. They certainly can get hot and make a run, but I just feel they don't bring it week in and week out. It's like the energy shifts, and you know, that's normal. That's what normal teams do, but that's why I think they're a notch below elite. I think they're a very good football team. And what's going on with the AFC East, I feel like the Bills they've been so unlucky for a long time. They're actually getting lucky this year, and it's almost that the East is theirs to lose. So Rob, the Jets are the Jets. We've talked about them, but we're at 0 wins still for the Jets. We got an 0-7 record on the books here. Do you think that they got a W in them after we saw some fight today?
I mean, I think they do. I think, the Jets slip up and they win one game.
All right. I thought the same. I don't mean to cut you off, but I thought the same. I want to walk through the schedule with you and get your take on it, okay? So, the Jets, the next game, they go to Kansas City. You putting a W there?
No.
They play New England following game.
That might be a win for them, the way that New England played today. It was just a horrible day for Cam Newton and Bill Belichick. But the Jets played inspired football today against the Buffalo Bills. I can't tell you what team that they're going to beat moving forward, but if they play like they played today, I think they can gut out a win against a team that's probably going to, sleepwalk on a Sunday that day.
Maybe, but you're going to need a sleepwalk because you're going to need a good performance and then a sleepwalk because it's Kansas City, New England at the Chargers versus the Dolphins versus the Raiders at the Seahawks at the Rams and versus the Pats again. So I was like you. I thought, hey, they're probably going to get a W if they can play like this a time or two again. I don't know with that schedule, though. We might be staring at a winless season.
Yeah, I mean, if the Jets go 0-16, it definitely wouldn't surprise me at all. But if they slip up and win a game that no one expects, that wouldn't surprise me either. We've seen it kind of seen it last year when the Jets knocked off Dallas. It just seems like everyone was on Dallas that particular day, and the Jets came out and got the win. So I can kind of see that playing out later in the season. Especially when some of these teams probably have playoff spots already, solidified.
But in terms of the battle for Trevor Lawrence, I'm not seeing 2 wins on that schedule. So if you have any intentions of getting Trevor Lawrence and you get your second win, you're done.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I don't see 2 wins on that schedule. But I'm gonna give the Jets. They're professional. They're professional athletes. They get paid the same, just like every other team out there. So I give them the benefit of the doubt of getting 1 win. I want to be optimistic, but that schedule is going to be tough sledding moving forward for the Jets.
Maybe week 17 against the Pats, when the Patriots are looking like they might miss the playoffs this year. We'll talk about that in a few, but maybe New England will be totally checked out by then. But I don't know. Belichick likes to stick it to the Jets, so maybe not. Maybe not. Hey man, we were talking about a struggling team with New York. I don't know if there's a sadder story right now in the NFL than watching Dallas play football, because Washington just dismantled them, and a bad Washington team just dismantled them. I know I've been giving Washington credit because they've been fighting, but this is not a super talented team that should ever do to any team what the Washington football team did to the Dallas Cowboys today. So Antonio Gibson, the running back from Memphis, goes off for 128 yards rushing on 20 carries and a TD. Logan Thomas gets in on the action, has a nice day. Terry McLaurin, nice day. Like I said, this Washington team, they've been showing some fight throughout the year. This might be the first time they took the field as a better team, and we certainly saw it. The Cowboys quarterbacks were under pressure all day. Andy Dalton gets knocked out in the second half thanks to what looked like a cheap shot by John Bostic. Shot to the head, forces him to get carted off. Dallas turns to Ben DiNucci for the rest of the game. Washington ends up racking up 6 total sacks. We can go back to this NFC East. This improves Washington 2-5, Rob. You're in second place. Congratulations. You're tied with the Cowboys, but you're technically ahead of them since you beat them. Washington's a half game out of the playoffs, but I think I think we could put a fork in them for the year.
Yeah, they're done. Definitely stick a fork in them. That defense is just horrible. They have weapons, but once again, when Andy Dalton got knocked out, you lose Dak Prescott and you expect Andy Dalton to kind of, galvanize the troops, and he gets knocked out. There's no telling when he's going to be able to return or whatever. It just seems like, the helium has been sucked out of the balloon when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys and that organization. So it's really going to be hard for them to kind of, make the playoffs, even though the NFC East is a crapshoot right now. But it really seems like Philly kind of controls that division moving forward, and it's theirs to lose. But just like I said, stick a fork in the Cowboys. They're done.
Yeah, I saw them. I honestly thought with Andy Dalton, they were going to be an interesting watch, and I thought they were going to hang around. But man, that defense is just too much to overcome for the offense. You need an elite quarterback like Dak to keep you in games, and it's ironic that Dak is probably going to earn his contract not playing this year, isn't it?
That's the way it seems. I mean, he was having a career year before he got hurt. And now it just seems like, they have these weapons, but somehow, you can't get the ball to him. And Dak was doing that before he went down. Yeah. So that might be the telltale sign for Dak to get that contract.
Also, I don't look, I mean, it's the facts of life in the NFL. It brings me no joy to speculate on this stuff, but what are we seeing from Mike McCarthy here? What is the shred of positivity that we're getting off of Mike McCarthy? Because for as much as you want to criticize Jason Garrett, and anyone could go off on Garrett was a good coach. Like, he had the Cowboys playing good football. They just could never get over that hump to be great. They're always just like kind of a mediocre to good team in that range. And when you do that for so long, it gets old. And they just never had that breakout year where they made a playoff run or they did something. It just wasn't. We know what the Jason Garrett era was, but when you see this and you fall off so rapidly, what tells you that Mike McCarthy is going to be able to rebuild this football team?
That's a good question, and you had the reports out there where you had the anonymous source saying that the team is not prepared, the coaches are not prepared. And I think, that's a knock on McCarthy. I think he came out and he addressed that, and he addressed the team. But once again, having this performance against Washington, it raises eyebrows, and it goes to show you if the coaches are prepared and if the players are prepared. But once again, I know, Dak Prescott is their leader, and he went down and he's going to be out for the rest of the year. But this team is just so talented. They have pieces. So it's not like, they're a rookie team that's a young, like a Jaguars team where, they have talent, but all the talent is young. It just seems like, this Cowboys team, they're missing something, whether it's on the coaching side of the ball or whether it's the players and the leadership. They're definitely missing something.
Yeah, and I think that the one thing, just like Dak had that good stretch before he went out, maybe the one saving grace for McCarthy might end up being Dak. So he needs to become best friends with Dak Prescott, because I think if Dak fights for McCarthy behind the scenes, I think that's an easy call to keep him. And obviously, it's stupid to bring coaches in for a year and then get them out, but it just doesn't seem, something's off in Dallas this year outside of the whole Dak situation. They weren't playing great football before Dak went out either. So I felt like Dak was just kind of keeping them afloat to a certain degree, or it's clear that he was. And this is going to be a long year in Dallas. So buckle up. And boy, after today's performance, I got to think the Cowboys are good for at least another couple wins, especially in the NFC East. But we might be seeing the Cowboys with a top 5 pick this year.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible.
It's crazy to think about.
But and that's one thing. In order to get back from this, season, they're going to need a top 5 pick or a top 10 pick to come in and play right away. Preferably on the defense side of the ball, or someone on the offensive line to kind of get it back to its glory days that we know the Cowboys offensive line to be.
Well, there'll be an interesting case study watching out from here. But moving on for the sake of time here, Green Bay also playing in Texas, knocking off the Texans today, 35-20. Rodgers shines, 4 TDs. Pack bounces back in a big way over the 1-6 Texans. Davante Adams was a recipient of 2 touchdowns to go along with 13 total receptions and 196 yards. Didn't seem they missed Aaron Jones too much today, Rob. His bad week in Tampa last week, but no signs of a hangover here. Jumping out to a 21-0 lead, coasted home for an easy 35-20 victory. And pattern I'm noticing, Deshaun Watson and the Texans, they seem to be good for at least one garbage time touchdown late to bring the score a little more respectable.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson, once again, it's just like, it just seems like he's one of the top tier quarterbacks in the NFL, but he's not going to win too many games because they just have so many holes to fill. But I think this game was more so of Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay Packers bouncing back from the loss in Tampa. And once again, a healthy Davante Adams pairing with the Aaron Rodgers is unstoppable, and I think that's what you saw today. When Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams is connecting like that, I don't think it's no defense that can really stop that combination. And I think that's what you're going to see moving forward as long as Davante Adams stay healthy. And once again, when you bring back Aaron Jones from his injury, I think just pick your poison. So I think this Green Bay Packers team is looking pretty good moving forward, definitely to make a deep run in the playoffs.
Yeah, you've been high on them from day one. And, that Bucs game last week, I could write that off as a one-time. Bucs kind of just smacked them. It happens when you compete. You're not always on every single time. Packers still have 2 games left against the Bears for control of the division. So sitting at 5-1, Green Bay, they're looking good. And, even though they lost to the Bucs last week, we saw the Seahawks go down tonight. The Packers are tied for the number 1 seed in the NFC. So not bad living. You're still very much in the thick of things if you're Green Bay. All right, Tampa Bay, just on a roll since that opening loss to the Saints was discouraging. The Bears game, that just felt fluky, losing that game, didn't it? That Bucs Bears game on the Thursday night just felt a little fluky. This game was back and forth early. Vegas has been pesky against good teams this year. We saw them even beat the Saints the week after the Saints beat the Bucs. And the Bucs were only up 24-20 early in the fourth quarter, but rookie Antoine Winfield, who the Golden Gophers very much missed on Saturday night, he picks off a ball in the fourth quarter, hands it back to Brady, and Brady did what Brady does. He put a knife in the hearts of the Raiders, and the Bucs score 3 straight TDs in the fourth quarter en route to a 45-20 blowout. So the Raiders end up falling to 3-3. We talked about they got a big game with Cleveland next weekend in terms of their playoff hopes. Got to win that if you're Vegas. The Bucs go to New York to face the Giants before a critical stretch of New Orleans, Carolina, the Rams, and Chiefs. If they can split that stretch, Rob, so that's the Saints, Panthers, Rams, and Chiefs, go 2-2 on that stretch. They finish with Minnesota at Atlanta, at Detroit versus Atlanta. How did Tampa get that stretch in December?
Yeah, I have no clue how they get that the stretch in December. But I tell you this Tampa Bay team is rolling. And then with the addition of Antonio Brown on board, it just seems like Tom Brady has a plethora of weapons. I mean, Mike Evans didn't have a typical Mike Evans day-to-day. But once again, Scotty Miller, you had Leonard Fournette coming back from injury, and he kind of had some tough running yards or whatever. And then you had Godwin. So it just seems like this Tampa Bay team with Gronk catching touchdowns is clicking on all cylinders right now. And we know what that defense has been able to do with Antoine Winfield. Just like you said, Minnesota definitely missed them this past Saturday. And then Levante David and Devin White just running sideline to sideline with the Dominican Sue up the middle, and JPP, a reemergent JPP. Let's add that. So it just seems like this team has everything that they need to go and win it all. So we're going to see moving forward how Tom Brady holds up and this offense and defense holds up. But it really seems like they're the clear-cut favorite in the NFC.
Yeah, when both units are playing at the highest levels, like their highest levels, this Tampa Bay team, I think, we've been high on Seattle. And I know Seattle they lost at Arizona tonight. It's not because of the loss. I'm just saying the more we watch this Tampa team, when they're operating at their best, I don't know if there is a better team in football, maybe outside of Kansas City.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I would like to throw the Steelers in there too, just because of that defense, because, they just have a playmaker on every level. On the front four, they have a playmaker at the linebacker position and a playmaker in the secondary. So I think the Steelers defense is definitely legit. I know Nick Saban kind of came out and said, offense win championships nowadays, not the defense. But I think the Steelers defense is one of those defense that can win a championship moving forward, especially if Ben Roethlisberger and the offense can kind of, live up to their part on the offense side of the ball.
That's a good point. Pittsburgh definitely is up there too. I definitely think that the Bucs are looking at least 12-4, maybe 13-3, because they're probably good for at least one more loss down the stretch. But 13-3 probably is going to get you at least the number 2 seed, perhaps the number 1 seed. So looking good. Things are working out in Tampa, living up to the hype. All right, Kansas City went into Denver. They just crushed the Broncos 43-16. First snow game of the year at Mile High. I was looking forward to watching some snow football, but Locke and the Broncos, they didn't really follow up that performance that they had at New England last week. Of course, we'll get to New England in a minute, but I was putting a little more stock in that win over in New England than maybe I should have, because they make too many mistakes here. 2 picks for Locke, including a pick 6, and then the Broncos a kickoff following a score on a field goal. Brian Pringle returns it 102 yards. So the Chiefs end up going for 43, but it wasn't the typical way they got there. Mahomes wasn't really doing. He barely had to do any heavy lifting today, Rob.
Yeah, it seems like this Kansas City Chiefs defense is finally coming around. Maybe it's definitely not one of the elite defenses that we have in the league, but it really seems like they're getting better week in and week out. And if they can, take some pressure off the offense and Pat Mahomes, I think this Kansas City Chiefs team is right back in the thick of things in the Super Bowl, especially with the addition to Le'Veon Bell. So if Pat Mahomes don't have to be Pat Mahomes week in and week out and he can kind of rest, that's going to be a scary sight for teams moving forward.
Well, the Chiefs actually, looking at their schedule, end of the month in November 29th, they go to Tampa Bay. So that should be a good one. But hey, Le'Veon Bell today, 6 carries for 39 yards. The Chiefs are clearly the class of the AFC here, but Are we looking at a New York Jets team coming into Kansas City next week, ready for some revenge on Le'Veon Bell? Is this the Le'Veon Bell revenge matchup? Is this where the Jets get their first win?
No way.
I
No
tried.
way.
I tried.
No way, Nick. I mean, I see what you try to do
Le'Veon
there.
Bell Bowl. Come on.
Le'Veon-
Adam Gase is going to sell his soul for a victory on Sunday.
I mean, I tell you what, I'm pretty sure the Jets is definitely going to come out and play some expired ball. And if the reports are true about, Le'Veon Bell being a diva in the locker room and, not getting along with a lot of the teammates, I'm pretty sure, those guys are probably going to take it personal. But at the end of the day, I think this is the Pat Mahomes game. He's pretty much probably going to, rest by the third quarter. I think they're just going to put up so many points on the Jets that, the story is not going to be Le'Veon Bell. It's going to be Pat Mahomes and everyone else.
I tried. I gave it my best shot. All right. The Niners. What is this? I got so many questions about this game, Robert. They go into New England 33-6, just absolutely pound the Patriots. They're regaining their Super Bowl form. I wrote the Niners off. I thought there's just too many injuries, too much to overcome. Running back Jeff Wilson Jr. put together quite a day before having his ankle rolled up on late. Didn't look good for San Francisco. But the defense gets 4 picks from Cam Newton. And really, we've seen a disturbing trend emerge for New England here. The offense has not found the end zone since the second half of the Kansas City game. Cam Newton-led offense has not found the end zone since the fourth quarter of the Vegas game. Think about that. That was the third game of the season. So Jarrett Stidham played in Kansas City. Cam Newton did not play in Kansas City. So that's why the differentiation in the stat. Vegas, you're going back to game 3 of the season since Cam Newton has led a touchdown drive, Rob. I know the Pats are hit hard by COVID. This season was going to be challenging enough with all these changes here, but what are we making of the Patriots here? Because I think that I just saw them, and just like I made a decision on the Cowboys, and I know I wrote the 49ers off due to injuries piling up, and that call's not looking so good. I stand by it still, but it's not looking good at the moment. It might be unwise of me to repeat the mistake, but I'm going to go ahead today and say the 2020 Patriots, not a playoff team. Easy call right now.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Once again, you talked about, the COVID, Cam Newton, who knows if he's, 100% healthy, maybe mentally he's drained from the whole, the off season and trying to get back to form, and then, kind of taking a delay with the COVID situation. But at the end of the day, these receivers, they're not getting open from. Cam Newton's never really been the most accurate quarterback in the NFL, but his receivers have to help him out. But just like you said, I really don't think this 2020 Patriots team is a playoff team, especially playing the way they've been playing. And just going back to the 49ers, I kind of, wrote them off as well, especially with all the injuries. But it seems like, no matter who they put in the backfield, they definitely have a rushing attack. And if Jimmy Garoppolo can, play like, his contract states, then I think this 49ers team can sneak in with the wild card spot.
Well, hey, they go to Seattle next week, and let me watch that game, and then I'll reassess San Francisco. That's kind of where I'm at on them. But until then, I'm going to stick with my take that their schedule's too hard. I think their schedule's too difficult, and I think the NFC West is too deep. They're just at a disadvantage, but and we might be giving too much credit for this win here in New England. I think this Patriots team, I mean, if they play like they played the last couple weeks here, are we looking at a 4 or 5 win team in New England?
Wow. I mean, if they play the way they've been playing, then yes. But once again, Bill Belichick, he's a mastermind. He's the guru. He's a genius. So I don't want to write off the Patriots at this moment. But if they continue to play like this, it's going to be tough sledding trying to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, and absolutely, I don't think absolutely anyone will miss it. And by the way, I put 4 interceptions on Cam Newton. Jarrett Stidham came in the game. He threw a pick. Actually, 3 interceptions for Cam Newton. but neither one of these quarterbacks goes over 100 yards. Ugly stuff, man. It'll be interesting to see how Belichick tries to reswizzle some things and see what they come up with. The Patriots coming up here. You got the Bills next week. This is the ultimate game for the Bills. The Patriots are weak. Step on their necks. Put the division to bed. Do it. You got the Patriots on your home turf next week. Because guess what? If New England does beat Buffalo, they got the Jets the following week. And then they got the Ravens. Maybe they pull it. Maybe that inspires them. They go on a 2-game win streak. They get the Ravens. And then the Texans. So if you don't beat the Patriots next week, Buffalo, you're going to have to maybe deal with the resurgent Patriots team over the next month. So step on their necks next week, Bills. Get it done. It'll be very interesting. I'm going to be very plugged into that Buffalo-New England game next week, even though the Patriots, not so hot right now. Not so hot right now. All right, let's move on. Final 4:00 game of the day here at Jacksonville at Los Angeles. The Chargers end up beating the Jags 39-29. Chargers run out to a 16-0 lead. The Jaguars opened the second half of the block punt, recovered a fumble for a touchdown. They blocked it, recovered it for a TD to come back and lead 21-16. Chargers scored again, up 22-21, before falling behind 29-22. But the Chargers, no problem. The Chargers end up finishing the game on a 17-0 run. Fun 35-point quarter there between both teams, but the Chargers pass rush, they just absolutely overwhelmed a weak Jaguars offensive line in the fourth quarter. They finished with 5 sacks, 4 tackles for a loss on the game. Gardner Minshew taking all kinds of heat, Rob, in Jacksonville. Doug Marrone came out this week, said he might have to bench him if he doesn't play a little better. But if you put up 29 points, I don't think Gardner Minshew in the offense is a big problem. I'm not saying he's perfect product, but I'm saying this is his first season as a starter, and I'd like to see the Jags stick with him because defense is clearly the issue here.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Nick. Defense is definitely clearly the issue. Once again, James Robinson had an exceptional game, 22 carries for 119 yards and 1 touchdown. East-West Shrine guy, undrafted. Actually pretty much, kind of took the reins after, the Jaguars released Leonard Fournette. So just like you said, DJ Chark has kind of been in and out of the offense with the injuries as well. So I think Gardner Minshew in the offense is definitely not the problem. I think the problem is definitely the defense, which is a young defense. So I think I would like to see Gardner Minshew kind of stick in there and give him some more time. Don't pull the plug on Gardner Minshew and Minshew Mania right now.
Well, speaking of a young quarterback looking pretty good here, Justin Herbert, he goes 27-43 for 347, 3 touchdowns, but he also leads the team in rushing. 9 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown. Rob, we've seen about a month of Justin Herbert so far. What do you think?
I think I'm sold on the Rook. I mean, he comes in, wasn't prepared to come in his first game, and I think he's been, poised, and he's been a great leader. I know there's a lot of reports out there on Justin Herbert. He's not the rah-rah guy. He's kind of nonchalant. But at the end of the day, I don't think you have to be, up in everyone's face to kind of show true leadership. I think you can kind of do it behind closed doors and do it in a quiet manner. And I think that's what Justin Herbert does. And he gets the job done. He can make every throw, and he can definitely, tuck in and run. So I think the Chargers is in good hands at the quarterback position moving forward.
Yeah, I like what they're doing out in LA, but it's only the second win of the season, so you got to start seeing a few more wins out of the Chargers. Let's see if this is a jumping off point. Probably not. I don't see them winning a ton of games this season, but Herbert's definitely making them competitive. It looks like they got their answer for the future. We weren't expecting to see a lot of him this year, so it's good that it's working out for them. The Jags, they got so much to build. It's not just the defense. I know I said it's defense. The offensive line's not there. There's a lot of work to be done in Jacksonville, but what can I say? It's just another year of saying that. All right. The Arizona Cardinals defend the home turf. big win over the Seattle Seahawks in overtime, 37-34, 5-2 Cardinals now. They're just a half game behind the Seahawks, who are 5-1 in the NFC West. Hey, Russ did everything he could, but ultimately didn't throw a pick in overtime when it looked like they had it. And Isaiah Simmons, the first round draft pick for the Cardinals, comes through. Gonzalez gets to redeem himself with a field goal in OT, and the Cards sneak one out. Rob, this was an awesome game. Ton of fun to watch. Kyler Murray throws for 350, 3 TDs, 14 carries, 67 yards, and a TD. DeAndre Hopkins goes over 100. On the other side, Russell Wilson, almost the same. I mean, this game is, these teams are almost a mirror of each other all night. Russell Wilson throws 50 times. He ends up passing for 388 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he throws 3 picks tonight. He carries it for 6 times for 84 yards. Tyler Lockett, 15 receptions, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. Great game for fantasy football players here. 572 yards for the Seahawks, 519 for the Cardinals. I mean, go down to the statistics. Everything's about dead even. So what it really came down to is just at the end of the game, just really the Cardinals made just to play more than Seattle. That's literally it. I know that's not really great analysis, but this was a back and forth game where if you kept more time on the clock, it just would have kept going like this.
Yeah, I think you're right. Once again, costly interception by Russell Wilson in overtime. You don't see that too much. But just going back, this was a hard-fought game. Arizona got a huge win. I think, one of the plays that's going to jump out is the game, not the game winning because they didn't win, but the touchdown saving tackle that DK Metcalf made with the Russell Wilson interception at the goal line. So I think that was one of the most pivotal plays in the game. And then, of course, the costly interception that Russell Wilson threw to Isaiah Simmons in overtime.
Hey, we talk about the NFC East a lot, and they suck. So let's actually spend time talking about a division full of great teams. The Seahawks are 5-1, but they got the Cardinals hot on their tails at 5-2. The Rams are 4-2. The Niners are 4-3. I mean, this is awesome. Yeah, this is going to be a great division race down the stretch. I happen to think that I started selling my Rams stock last week. The Niners stock has been fully sold. I like what the Cardinals have done over the last couple months. This was a little bit of a surprising run, but losing that Lions game and then the Panthers, that was a tough little stretch for them. But, hey, they've ripped off 3 straight wins, 2 of them against the Jets and Cowboys. Not so good. But beating the Seahawks at home, that really makes a statement. So you got the Dolphins, Bills, and then you get another rematch with the Seahawks. If you take care of Miami and Buffalo, that Seattle game, you got a shot to take a division lead in just 3 weeks. So are we buying stock in the Cardinals as a division winner?
Not yet. Not yet.
I'm there with you. I'm not quite ready. I still like Seattle better.
Yeah, I definitely like Seattle. I think, this is a one-off. Once again, Russell Wilson had a chance to go down and win the game. He throws the interception. I know they had a touchdown call back for DJ Moore with a holding. So if that play stands, Seattle goes on to win the game. So I'm not there exactly yet for Arizona to, win the division outright. But just like you said, it's a great division. We get to see, the Rams play tomorrow against a feisty Bears defense. If they take care of business, then definitely going to have to reassess that division. I didn't sell my stock in the Rams like you, Nick. So my stock is still high on the Rams. And I think, the Rams have a good shot of winning this division. So I give Rams more credence to win this division than the Cardinals.
Beat someone outside the NFC East, and then I'll start talking about the Rams again.
Yeah, and I think that's going to start, tomorrow with the Bears game. I think if the Rams get that win, that's going to be a great win for them, especially since they only beat up on the NFC East. So I think that's a start right there. So let's see this game play out tomorrow night, and then we can kind of reassess. But I am high on the Rams. I think, Jared Goff is having a good year. Sean McVay, great play caller, great scheme to coach. And I think they have the weapons and the pieces on both sides of the ball to keep up with Seattle.
Well, Seattle had a chance to bury Arizona on the in the standings tonight and take a 3-game lead over the Cardinals in the standings. They're moving to 6-0 and dumping the Cardinals to 4-3, are really a 2.5-game lead, I guess. But Arizona just made this division race a lot more interesting. So the Seahawks, who really have been the clear best team in football, I would say up until now. I still think they're one of the best teams in football. They did, even on a game where they made a lot of mistakes, they made a lot of plays that kept the Cardinals in that game too. So let's not make no mistake. Arizona didn't play a perfect game, but that was kind of a wild game. That was a wild back and forth game. Seattle didn't bring their A game tonight, and they still hung around and almost won. So still high on the Seahawks. Not really hurting on the Seahawks stock. I'll buy some if you want to sell some.
Yeah, I'm definitely whatever stock you have that you're willing to sell on the Rams, I'm definitely going to buy it from you.
All right. Well, Seahawks play the 49ers next week. I'm very interested to see how that game goes, and that could prove to be a huge one in the division. If the Niners beat the Seahawks next week, the NFC West is going to go into total chaos. So we'll see what happens. But if the Seahawks hold home field against the Niners, maybe it's going to play out the way we think. So we'll see how it goes. But definitely the NFC West is officially super interesting. All right, we referenced the Monday night game tomorrow. The Bears at the Rams. Looking forward to this matchup. Let's see what Nick Foles and the Bears have. We know that defense can play some ball. Let's see if the offense can step up and make a few plays when necessary. So I'm expecting, though, I think the Rams, when they play some of these better defenses, they get smacked in the mouth a little bit, and they definitely slow their roll. So I think Goff's an okay quarterback. I don't think I don't put him up there with the best. I think this is going to be a relatively low scoring game tomorrow night. I'm interested to see how I think it's a huge test for Chicago, because I think that perception of the Rams is around where you're saying. I think I sold early on the Rams. I think some people still think the Rams are a pretty good team, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those people who think the Rams are a pretty good team. Just based off the pieces that they have on both sides of the ball, the offense and the defense. But it is going to be a tough matchup for the Rams, and a tough matchup for the Bears. I like, I think it's going to be a gritty defensive type of game. And, we're going to see which team comes out to victorious and which team is legit. And, the Rams has an opportunity to make the statement, and so does the Bears. So I think it's going to be a good, hard-fought game tomorrow.
Big win for both teams if you have any ideas on winning your division. So the winner is going to come out with a good leg up to win a division. And the loser, you're going to fall into that wild card pack. All right. Rob, any last thoughts before we get to the Did You Know question of the week that I'm going to crush you on?
No last thoughts. Just ready for the Did You Know. I know you got something tough for me, so bring it on.
Yeah, the Did You Know question of the week brought to you by Coach Paint. The Cleveland Browns have a chance to end the longest playoff drought in the NFL, and I think we both agree it's a good chance. But that drought currently stands at 17 seasons. Who has the next longest drought in the league? That's what I want to know tonight. The Browns have the longest at 17. Which team has the next longest drought in the playoff drought in the NFL? And that's not winning a playoff game. That's just making it to a playoff game. Making it to the playoffs, period. Okay? So we'll get that answer after this break. American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint is a great tool that allows us to add graphics to player highlight clips similar to the graphics you see on TV. Coach Paint offers the ability to clearly tell a straight video while increasing retention of information in a short amount of time. Up your game with Coach Paint today. All right, Rob, before we went to break, I asked you, the Cleveland Browns have a chance to end the league's longest playoff drought, and that's just making the playoffs, not winning a game or anything, just making the playoffs at 17 seasons. They haven't made it since the 2002 season. Which team, though, has the next longest drought in the league?
So I'm going to take this by division. And I guess I'll start with the NFC East. So the Cowboys would jump out, but I know the Cowboys made the playoffs fairly recent. So I cancel the Cowboys out. And of course the Giants, they got the Super Bowls with Eli Manning. So I crossed them out. And even the Redskins, the former, we got the Washington football team now, but they made the playoffs with our RG3. So I have to cancel them out. And we know the Eagles have won the Super Bowl recently. So
the Redskins, the Washington football team, they're in the top. They're in the top 4. They're tied for 4th longest drought at 4 seasons. That's a hint I'll give you.
Yeah. So I know they were definitely more recent than the Cleveland Browns. So every team in the NFC, I cancel those teams out.
Wait, you just jumped to every team in the NFC?
No, I was breaking it down.
In the East,
NFC
in the East.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, in the
Gotcha.
East. So I was going through division. So
gotcha.
And heading over to the NFC North. Pretty much all those teams kind of, been in the playoffs recently. Probably the Detroit Lions. You would think about the Detroit Lions, but I remember that Detroit Cowboy playoff game where I thought Detroit really got a raw deal on that game with a bad pass interference call, or should I say, So no team in the NFC North. So wow, let me head out there to. Ooh, I'm definitely going NFC though. I'm definitely going NFC. I'm trying to find a division. I want to go Tampa Bay. I don't think Tampa Bay been there since the Super Bowl. So I think I'm gonna go Tampa. The Super Bowl's in Tampa this year. I think Tom Brady is gonna end the streak. So I think I'm gonna go Tampa Bay.
You nailed it.
Okay.
Tampa Bay Bucks. I thought I was gonna get you on this one. Tampa Bay, 12 seasons. They haven't been since the 2007 NFC wild card. I didn't realize it had been that long for Tampa. That kind of surprised me when I looked that up. So your next longest is at 9 seasons. So they had 3 seasons on the Jets, because the Jets, the Rex Ryan AFC title game, 9 seasons for the Jets. And then after that, the drop off is steep. Arizona, Cincinnati, Washington, and Denver all have 4-season droughts going on right now for the playoffs. That's pretty incredible, isn't it?
It is. I was thinking Cincinnati because I know the Browns played Cincinnati today, but I do remember Andy Dalton leading them to a playoff game. Lots of playoff games. So and they just couldn't get over the hump. So I knew it was coming. You said the Browns, so I knew it had to come out the NFC. So wow, but that is pretty surprising about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, so that's looking good to end this year. We're looking pretty solid to end that one this year for Tampa. So, all right, Tampa Bay with 12 seasons, Jets at 9, Arizona, Cincinnati, Washington, Denver are the next ones at 4. So that gives you an idea of just the steep drop off. All right, it's even more spectacular. The 17 seasons for Cleveland's even more spectacular when you consider that only 2 other teams in the NFL have more than 4-year playoff droughts, right?
Yeah, that's the Browns. That's the Browns.
That's why they're the Browns. All right, man. I'm good. That's a point for you in our imaginary point keeping system that we're not doing anymore. And you can read us out if you're ready.
Yeah, I'm just excited that I got a question right. I know I've been on a losing streak.
I think you got a 17-question drought.
Yeah, I know I was on a drought. Maybe not the Cleveland Brown drought, but I know I was on a drought. But yeah, nothing else for me. So I'm definitely gonna go ahead and read us out, and just talk to our audience and talk to the listeners out there. So once again, we appreciate you guys for listening to this episode of American Football Stories. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please subscribe and rate us 5 stars. Follow us on Twitter at American FB Stories, and check out our website at AmericanFootballStories.com. Once again, my name is Robert Parker III, and my co-host is Nick Newson. So thank you, and tune in to next week's episode.
You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out. Because it matters.
I hope there's Bigfoot. I don't think there is. The reason I don't think there is because we've found bones of dinosaurs and everything else, but we haven't found bones that I've heard of Bigfoot.
I'm very upset. We should have been in a ball game with fast field goal. The coach had sent him in. We shouldn't have sent him in. That's a dang coaching mistake. The kids are playing their tail off, and the coaches are screwing it up.
We just got to stop that little inside trap. The option didn't hurt us much. We played pretty hard. We just got to stop that inside thing. Offensively, we kind of sputtered around, got the ball in the end zone. Defensively, we got to get out off the field on that 2-minute drive.
Injuries to your offensive line. What do you do in the second half?
Oh, we're just going to play. We just got to keep playing.
Thank you, Coach.
He has a magnificent personality, I'll tell you.
We receive a lot of mail during the course of the season, and a lot of it's good mail, a lot of it's bad. And I would say that most of it is good, though, isn't it, Bill? Yeah, I think so. I'd say 95 to 98% of the mail we get is always good. But the one question that keeps coming up, where Woody Hayes' name is involved, they say you're a man of no mercy, and yet, frankly, I don't care much what they think.